Okay, and we are live.
Woohoo!
What's good, guys? Welcome back to our little mini-sode side series, which we haven't really got a proper title. I've just been saying talking and then whatever it is we're talking about. So last week was talking Mission Impossible, and this week we will be talking the classic, one of the all-time great trilogies ever made, talking Back to the Future. With myself, Ed Reese.
Whoa! And it's Marty McFly Mo.
Dude, so good watching this again. Felt so good. It's like so comforting, like a comfy pair of slippers that you haven't worn in a while. You just slip into.
So tell me something. I got a message from you the other day, and you said that you had watched like all three in one sitting.
Yep. On Saturday.
That must have been an experience.
It was nice because it was like meeting some old friends I haven't seen in a while. And that's the thing. That was the thing. I was literally surprised how quick it went. Like the time just flew by.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've watched these films?
All three. Yeah. Like the first two I'd probably watched maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The third one I hadn't seen in a good few years.
It's I tell you what is very, very scary, right? It's the 35th anniversary of those movies, or at least the first one this year. I saw the film in the cinema for its 25th anniversary, which to me feels like it was only like 2 or 3 years ago, but it was 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, the re-release. Yeah, I remember that, and I always wanted to go see it, but I haven't had that experience of any of the Back to the Future films in the cinema.
It does not feel like it was 10 years ago that I went to see that.
What's it like in the cinema, man?
It was absolutely fantastic. I went all out. Normally when I go to cinema, I don't even get like the popcorn and the drink. This time I was like, I'm going proper old school, get the popcorn, get the drink, and just watched this like amazing film for the first time in my whole life at the cinema. I've seen number 2 and number 3 at the cinema, but never got to see the first.
Oh, wow. All right, so we're going to break down each film step by step, and I'm sure Mo has always little trivia of all the things. Let's keep it interesting, though. Let's not get too in the weeds. Because I don't want you to give me like the brand of the tires in the first film. That's different than the second film.
You mean you don't want to like discuss what the actual color code for like that silver paint job on the DeLorean is?
No, I don't know how many cars they made. None of that. Give me
interesting. I'm gonna be telling you that. That's absolutely amazing.
So we start with Back to the Future, which was released on July the 3rd, 1985.
Marty leads an ordinary life.
No McFly ever amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley.
Well, history is going to change.
And 1985 is not his year. But Dr. Brown is about to change all that.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
He's sending Marty 30 years back in time.
It's a flying saucer from outer space!
Now, he's trapped in the past.
It's gotta be a dream.
About to meet
chocolate.
His future father.
He's a peeping Tom.
Wow!
And he's making an impression on his mother.
It's an absolute dream.
Now, he's got to make his mother and father fall in love.
For crying out loud, I haven't even been born yet.
And only Dr. Brown can help him get back to the future.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Precisely.
With a budget 19 million, and with a box office take of 389.1 million.
Wow, that really made its money and then some. And you think about all the re-releases it's had, it's been on home video, it's been on DVD, Blu-ray. They're now prepping it for 4K this year.
No, 19 million. No, do you think of how much these fucking films cost now? That is so mad.
So it's really interesting you say that, because just prior to this, I was refreshing my mind and watching loads of stuff to remind myself. So do you remember, have you ever known what the original end sequence was supposed to be? So it wasn't like what we got.
The end sequence, when the doc picks up Marty and his girl?
No, not that end sequence. The end sequence has in to get back from the past to the future.
No.
So originally, they were going to go to like a test site where they actually explode a nuclear bomb in the desert. But when they worked that whole thing out, and if you watch the DVDs, they've actually got like the storyboarding of it all. It was going to cost them $1 million. So they go, that was just too expensive for us. It was like, we're a small time film.
From 19 million to 20 million.
When you got a budget, you've got a budget, right? If you can't like squeeze it in, so they go, we're going to have to rework the whole end of the film. That's how we got what we got. And this is what I was saying to you last week when we were doing the Star Trek discussion. When you have too much money, you become lazy. But when you don't, you have to be really inventive. Like that, what we've got is so classic.
So is this to generate the power that he needs to get back?
Yes.
So instead of doing a nuclear bomb to generate the power, that's when they did the whole clock tower, lightning hits and it comes down.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And they built the whole mythology of the things. That clock tower is almost like the fourth character, right? Because it's in every film.
Yeah, so they actually went back and set up the whole clock tower getting hit by lightning, doesn't work, and no one bothered to fix it and all this time.
Yeah.
Which is cheap as hell, I've got to say, for that little town. You can't fix the damn clock. Seriously.
Right, if you imagine, there were lots of little things that I thought about when I watched this film this time around that I'd never really thought about before. And there's 60 seconds, right? In a hello, Gizmo, say hello. There's 60 seconds in a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine there's like 60 chances for you to hit that pole and not have a lightning strike.
Yeah.
That is like that's quite a big flaw, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going, you hit that pole at 88 miles per hour at exactly 10:04.
It wouldn't work. It wouldn't happen. It would not happen.
Or you'd watch the lightning strike just before you went past.
Or it would overload the car and it would just explode and Marty's dead.
But the film is so good that I'm willing to overlook like little things like that.
It's perfection. I loved it.
Yeah.
And well, we'll get to that. There's a few things I want to discuss, but we'll get to that right at the very end. Yeah. But I was gonna let you know to set up. Shall we read the little synopsis for each film? Just to break it down from IMDb.
Right. Have you got it loaded up?
Well, I was hoping we'd get your beautiful.
I could load it. I'll load it up. Right.
But yeah, I want to buy a DeLorean. Not a real DeLorean. It's like a little model one. I feel that's like missing from my shelf.
Have you ever seen the American Dad episode where they I don't know what it is. No, Stan's secret hobby that none of the family know about is the fact that he's got a garage somewhere and he's been like slowly rebuilding like a DeLorean. But he has absolutely no idea what Back to the Future is. Like when his son finds out, he's like so amazed that his dad's into it that they finally got something to geek out on together. And he goes, I've never seen this movie, never heard of it.
But does he build it to look like the Back to the Future DeLorean with all the bits at the back and everything?
Oh, you know what? I actually can't remember that.
Jesus.
Right. So the synopsis for the first movie. Marty McFly, a 17-year-old high school student, is accidentally sent 30 years into the past in a time-traveling DeLorean invented by his close friend, the eccentric scientist, Doc Brown.
That is a questionable relationship. But unlike our unlike our Karate Kid commentary we did on our podcast, Talking at the Movies, guys, so check it out, where I theorized that story is about an abusive relationship with a boy and his Japanese caretaker. I'm not going to do that with Back to the Future. This is a pure, wholesome relationship between Marty and the Doc. As strange as it is. It is weird that we don't actually see any regular friends from Marty.
Well, if you really think about it, the whole movie literally takes over the course of like a day in real time, right? Friday, he goes to school. Friday night, he meets Doc. Saturday morning, they go back to the future again. And then he probably comes back Saturday night, Sunday morning.
But if they do this film again, he's going to have some little buddies, even at the beginning.
No, this film is never, ever getting done again. Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, they own the rights. No, it will
We'll
not.
talk about it at the end. We're talking about it at the end. Yes, we will. So, what possessed him to want to blow out his eardrums at the beginning? What was he trying to achieve?
I don't think that was intentional. I think that was very much an accident.
A floor to the ceiling speaker. What do you think is going to happen? Crank to max.
That is a cool looking speaker. but like Doc Brown actually says in the phone call that there might be a chance of overload. So he's obviously done this loads of times before. But did you notice in that scene, like as the whole movie starts, there's like all these clocks, right? And one of the clocks, there is like, I forget the comedian's name now, because this is actually based on a movie. I think it's called like The Clock Tower, where you actually see a guy hanging off like one of the arms of the clocks. And that basically foreshadows what's to come later in the film.
Yeah, not Buster Douglas. It's another one of those quiet, silent cinema guys.
Yeah,
one of those with the glasses. One of the guys that inspired Jackie Chan to do his stunt from Project A.
Project A.
It's a little trivia there for you. But this sequence also highlights if the clock tower's one of the main characters, and the car's got to be one of the main characters, side character, shall we say, then the band, what's it, Huey Lewis and the News?
Huey Lewis and the News.
They got to get some credit, man, because they add a certain nostalgic flavor to this when you hear that back in time.
So they've got two songs. They've got like The Power of Love and obviously Back in Time. And do you know that the guy who has the megaphone and says, "You're just too darn loud," is Huey Lewis?
Yeah.
And the band that he's playing with are the News.
It's mad because I would never buy an album from them. I would never listen to them on my playlist. It's not the type of music I give a shit about. But for some reason, these two songs have penetrated my soul so deeply that I just have a crazy love for them.
You need to listen to Huey Lewis and the News. Huey Lewis and the News, Picture This. Huey Lewis and the News, Small World.
You've got their albums. You've got their bloody albums.
They are absolutely fantastic musicians.
Dude, man. This is up there like Phil Collins, 80s.
Oh my Lord, you're not like dissing Phil Collins, are you? Come on, I thought you had musical taste.
So what do you think of the cast?
This cast is absolutely incredible, right? You would think about like Michael J. Fox was already a household name. He was in a weekly top-rated sitcom, Family Ties. He's just come off of Teen Wolf, which, if you listen to his interviews, I don't think he was really interested in doing. He was like, I'm doing Teen Wolf, and Steven Spielberg was down the road prepping a movie called Back to the Future. Christopher Lloyd, obviously, was best known for being in Taxi, just come off like doing the main bad guy in Star Trek 3. The other guys I don't know very well, but Thomas F. Wilson, and you'll probably notice this having watched all three in one go, he's an absolutely incredible actor.
In my opinion, he's the true star of this movie. Like, all respect to Michael J. Fox and everybody. Leah Thompson, yep. And Crispin Glover. But yeah, dude, Biff, he is the best character. All versions of him over the years, the best, hands down, the performance.
It's what really highlighted it was in number 2, and I think this might be the first time I've noticed it or actually thought about it, but that sequence where one moment he's playing Old Man Biff and then he's playing Griff, and the difference in the two characters is just absolutely astonishing.
You know what? I don't want to jump ahead. We won't jump ahead.
Yeah.
So the overall story, how does it touch you once he gets going?
It's a classic tale, right? Essentially, it's one of those, like, when you break it down, it's a really simple story. A guy accidentally gets sent back in time, disrupts the past, endangers his own future, has to set the record right without like changing other things, and get his ass back to the future.
It always baffles me how ignorant some people are at how the littlest thing they do will completely F up everything. And that little mechanism of showing the photos, he's always conveniently got a photo with him that shows that slowly. Who the hell has a picture of their siblings with them? Nowadays on your phone, but back then, a little Polaroid.
Back then it would probably be different, right? Because you didn't have your phone, so you would have to have like a picture. Maybe the three of them went out somewhere and they all got a picture each.
They didn't seem particularly close.
They did not seem particularly close. And what's even stranger is no one seems to care that Marty, a high school kid, just disappears in the middle of the night.
I know. But then when you're dealing with time travel, we don't really know whether because he comes back right at the same time that he left. But actually, he comes
back in the morning. Actually,
you can actually argue that string theory, he's come back to a different 1985. So 1985 that he left, that Marty's still missing. So that's a whole nother story of this boy that's just disappeared that no one's ever seen again.
You're going to go off like on a tangent here.
Dude, time travel is infinite. You can just go so many ways. Because he comes back to a present 1985 as he knows it. That's different.
Yeah.
So it's a different line. It's a different timeline. I want to know that story then, the grief of everyone talking about this.
Well, I have got a question similar to that as we get to the end of number 2. So we'll park that for a moment. We'll get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but this overall film, right? So I remember, even as a wee child, 1984, seeing the adverts on TV. Obviously, there was no way my mum was ever going to take me to cinema to watch this. And I remember seeing these ads and just being like, this film looks absolutely awesome. I want to see this film. And then I remember when I was in, I think the following year when it came out on VHS, as we would walk by the rental store on the way home from school, I'd say, Mum, can we please rent this? Can we please rent this? And as I was watching it the other night, I can't remember if my mum watched it with me when I was a child, but she'll probably be thinking, what strange film has my son wanted to rent where the mother falls in love with her son?
Oh, it's... I guess from her perspective, no, her perspective is it's believable enough because she's just she's like a little 17-year-old girl.
Yeah.
This boy what's mad is that the parents think it's okay to let him sleep in the daughter's bed to recover while she's there.
They did knock him out with a car.
Yeah, but put him on the couch, put him on a spare room in the bed of the daughter.
This is America, right? Well, that's the sort of thing you do in a household, though, right?
No,
it's not like they're not saying like you wouldn't expect the daughter to be in there, but you'd be like, right, we need to put him in a bed.
They're not going to
other children.
No father is going to put a teenage boy in the bed. It's like jumping over the middleman of.
Yeah, but he wouldn't expect his daughter to start. I think we're really getting away from.
But I like the line that she keeps calling him Calvin. It's like, why do you keep calling me Calvin? It's written on your underwear.
You know what the really odd thing with that is? They never really play into that until the second film. Like in the first film, that's almost kind of forgotten. But in the second film, they mention it a lot more.
Sadly, this is the only movie we get Crispin Glover. It would have been interesting to see what differences we would have had if he'd stuck around, what more that role would have had. So,
do you know the tale of Crispin Glover and Back to the Future 1 and 2?
Forgot it.
Right, so...
There was some lawsuits going on, I remember that.
There is 2 parts to it. So apparently in part 1, he was quite difficult on set. And I don't think they mean, when they say difficult, I don't think he means, or from what I've read, that he was a diva or anything, but he was a guy who liked to question everything.
Yeah.
And one of the things he questioned was the end of the movie. And I was reading about this the other night, and I think he actually has a really good point. He goes, at the end of this movie, no one is a better person because they're a better person. What the end of this movie is saying is, if you have more money in life, you have a better life, which he actually didn't think was a good moral. And I actually kind of agree with that.
You can interpret it that way, but at the same time, you can also interpret it that his character, what was it? Jaws McFly, gains a backbone. He learns to stand up for himself, and that makes the world around him better.
He does, but then that equates to like now all of a sudden he's got a good life because like he's successful and obviously he's making more money. Obviously not enough money to actually live somewhere else, still in the same place. His kids are going to like the country club or something after breakfast. They can afford to buy a second car.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get the idea. It's just a happy ending, right? But when you actually delve into it, he kind of had a point.
It's pretty shallow, isn't it?
Yeah. The second issue so when they and this is the really funny thing, when they asked him to come back for the second film because everyone just signed up for it, he was the one actor who said, "I want more money," and they basically decided not to pay that out. And so what happened was, in the first film, like they had makeup that made all of them look old.
Yeah. They had the molds of his face.
They took the mold and they essentially put that on another actor's face, and essentially, what in his own words said, fooled the audience, lied to the audience that I was still in the movie. They go, if they want to recast it, that's absolutely fine.
I don't agree with his argument in this because he's playing a character. Like, I don't know what the rights are in the contract, whether he signed away his likeness or not for various things, but the character is established. You look in a particular way.
Yeah.
So if they want to carry that particular character on and they have the molds, and I feel they have the right to do so.
They don't own the rights to you though. So remember Superman, the original Superman. Remember they filmed all these scenes for Marlon Brando, but because the estate wouldn't wouldn't agree to the fee to have them in the second movie. He never appeared until the Richard Donner cut.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at it more from the Star Wars argument, where George Lucas managed to pry away everybody's likeness forever. And he could do
Well, yeah, so he
basically
probably
what he
had that.
wanted.
Well, George Lucas is another matter, right? He got like
Yeah.
sequel rights, he got toy rights.
Yeah.
He's a pure businessman. In this case, the courts agreed with Crispin Glover, and he actually won a lawsuit against, I don't know whether it was Universal or the movie producers, how that kind of works, but he actually won. But he's still bitter about it till this day. I've seen talk shows with him like as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, and he's still talking about it.
What does he actually say? Is he just annoyed that he missed out on those films?
No. He's annoyed that they used his likeness. They go like something that he owns. They used it without his permission. He didn't want to be in the film because they weren't, they don't really go into like why he didn't want to be in it. But I could really see it from his point of view.
He wanted it.
They essentially, when I was a little child, I had no idea that wasn't the same actor.
It is, because they do. They film him in a particular way from the replacement actor, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
For one, they film upside down, which fools you because people's faces look different, and another one is from a distance through a window. So they do a good job of covering it. But I get it. I guess I do get it. It's like it's not my performance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They go that they're basically lying to your audience, saying that Crispin Glover is in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Well, we may still touch on things for number 1, but Back to the Future 2.
Are we back? We're back.
What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're gonna be able to see our wedding.
Wow. The future.
I gotta check this out, Doc.
Look what happens to your son.
He's a complete wimp.
Don't talk to anyone. You've been looking.
Hey, look!
Don't touch anything.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
Now, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating an alternate 1985.
There have been a few changes.
It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
But they'll all be back.
Eat less, slackers!
Biff?
Hello? Hello, anybody home?
Why that can't be you? You're so big.
With my little bits and bobs. It's November the 22nd, 1989. A budget of 40 million. Now, I think because they filmed 1 and 2 back to back, I think this budget may be spread between both films.
Right.
So that's 20 million each. So basically the same as the first one. And it made 335.9 million. A little less than the first one, but still.
Not bad. So
penny.
number 2. After visiting 2015, Marty McFly must repeat his visit to 1955 to prevent a disastrous changes to 1985 without interfering with his first trip. That seems like a really shitty synopsis.
It does. But even just quickly touching back on the first one, how did you feel about the setting of the 50s?
Absolutely loved it, right? So there's no secret. Back to the Future is like my favorite movie. And you really got to see a period of America that I guess was like the birthplace of like rock and roll and like teenage freedom and like
it's romanticized. Even the sound of it, the design aesthetic. It's just, there is something, even though I wasn't alive at all, there is something very, I don't know, nostalgia ain't the word because I wasn't there to experience it, but you kind of get that sense of this false nostalgia.
Yeah, it's not quite nostalgia, but I think it's kind of like it's been romanticized, right? Which is, I think, what you said. It's like when everybody was like, it was post-World War, the economy was booming, everyone was like basically purchasing power was becoming a thing, rock music was out there.
Yeah, which is the deception because people like us wouldn't have had a good time.
No. Well, you see it in the first film, right? Where Marty goes, "You're going to be the mayor of Hill Valley, right?" And the guy goes, "Oh, I'd like to see that, a colored mayor."
A colored mayor, that'll be the day. So number 2. This is the one that I guess I fell in love with, even though I do, in hindsight, prefer the first one overall. When I was a little kid, this one was the one I was really like, because it's the future aesthetic. That was all the cool shit. Flying cars, self-lacing boots, self-drying jackets.
This one for me, I think I might have been in the same boat as you. When I was a child, I used to think this was my favorite part of the trilogy. Maybe because I'd seen the first one so many times. It's one of those films I'd recorded off VHS and just watched again and again and again. So like 5 years later, suddenly there's like a brand new film. I think time hasn't been kind to this one. I would say this is probably now my least favorite of the three, and that does not mean it's a bad movie, but it is a movie of 3 parts. It literally is a movie of 3 parts. You've got like the future stuff, which is all really cool. You've got like the middle stuff, which is like Biff World, and then you've got like the really cool stuff, which is again like tying it into the first movie.
Yeah. That always catches me by surprise when they go back again to the 50s. Not
to the exact same day that he left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just see him watching himself doing other stuff, running around. Doesn't critique his guitar playing though. It's always bugged me because he should. He should look down and think, damn, what was I thinking?
What did you think of like the future aesthetic? Because I was watching that like last week. And even though that time has now passed, and actually the last time I watched this movie was actually New Year's Eve 2014, 2015. When I watched it recently, it still looks futuristic. It doesn't look like the time has come and gone and now it looks so dated or they got it so wrong. So they got like some things right, they got some things wrong. I mean, end of the 80s, if you sat there and thought, would we have flying cars in 2015? I think both of them said we knew they wouldn't, but like we just had to put it in there.
You gotta. Yeah. And I love it. I love the aesthetic of it. Even just the little design, like the Pepsi bottles?
Oh yes, yeah.
Which they did for a limited release, but we didn't get them over here in the fucking UK. Bastards! I would have loved to keep one of those in my shelf.
The trainers, jackets, the hoverboards,
which came true. They made the shoes.
But do you remember in the 80s, at the end of the 80s, when Robert Zemeckis was doing some promotional work for Back to the Future 2, he said, and you would never get away with this now, he said that hoverboards were real and that basically the toy companies weren't able to put them out because parent groups thought they were too dangerous.
Yeah,
so they were
I remember that.
Can you remember as a child thinking hoverboards are real?
And there was always that one piece of shit kid in the class that said, yeah, I got one, but I'm not allowed to take it out. But yeah, it's really good, guys. You should try it one day, but I can't. I'm not allowed to take it out.
Was that Salim?
No, it wasn't. I even knew some arsehole kid that said he had a kit from Knight Rider. He had a car.
He had a car from Knight Rider. A Trans Am.
But dude, there are adverts on Instagram of people doing little effects on hoverboards, Back to the Future hoverboards, and there are people in the comments saying, "Oh my god, is it real? Is it finally here? Where can I buy it?" People are so dumb.
Does it wind you up that all these new modes of transports are all referred to as hoverboards?
Yeah, those little.
Yeah,
I never got that.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't hover. There's balance board. That's all it is.
I'm going to come back to the hoverboard in a minute, but let's talk about the rest of the film. So the middle bit of that future bit, once they've done what they get there to do, and the whole Jennifer thing she goes walkies. That's where it starts to get a bit boring for me.
Oh, we didn't talk about the replacement actress,
Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
What replaced Claudia Wells?
What was the story behind why Claudia didn't come back?
So Claudia was originally going to be in both, but her mother got sick. And essentially she had almost quit acting by this point because she goes, her personal life was so crazy, lots of stuff going on, and she had to go and take care of her mother. So they sat there and said, there's no real way that they can do this movie without the Jennifer character. Because if you think about the way the first movie ended.
Yeah. Not that she has a whole lot to do in the second one.
Hence why they wrote her out. But I was just watching the end of the first movie and the beginning of the new movie in a documentary right now. Yeah. And I do think, as much as I love Elizabeth Shue, I do think Claudia Wells was the better Jennifer.
It's the hair. The Shue's hair recreated. It looked like a wig. It didn't look right. It just made it look.
And Shue's got a very. I don't know if you've watched things like Adventures in Babysitting. She has got a very her own way of acting, which was just so different from Claudia Wells. Yeah.
Even though it did work when she was playing the older version of herself when she went to the house, and then it was a bit bigger, which I think they needed. Yeah. But that must be shitty for that other actress, man, to see how big this has become and be like, Damn, did her mum even survive?
I have no idea, actually. You know what? I know I know last year we went to a convention. Or we were going to go to one, and she was actually at it.
Oh.
So she is like doing that. So she still is like, doing the rounds on the Back to the Future.
Yeah, but that ain't really a career high when you're just going around. It's like Norton Ross.
I mean, I don't actually know what she's been in since, but yeah, I mean, like, family's family. That personal life's got to come first at that point, I guess, right? Now, imagine you take this woman to the future, right? And literally, because you've got a two-seater car, you dump her on the street. Now, what the hell are you expecting to happen? Like, are you expecting this woman still to be there when you come back?
That and the contradiction of the doc saying, we got Jessica with us, Doc. We can't go without. No, Jennifer. It involves Jennifer. It involves her as well.
Yeah.
But then once she gets there, he just puts her to sleep. So
no, but he does say, like, he didn't know what to say, that and hence, like, like, he's just shown her that time travel's a thing. You can't just leave her there.
Yeah, but they kind of built up that it may involve her in the adventure in the last film, so it just dump her like that was just... I
think the thing is, if you actually listen to the commentaries, watching the documentaries, they had that ending as like a gimmick. They didn't really think they were going to be doing a sequel. Yeah. They didn't realize the movie was going to be as successful as it was, and they did kind of paint themselves into that corner at the end.
Okay, the most legit question about Back to the Future 2.
Yeah. What
did you think of female Michael J. Fox playing his own daughter?
You would hit that all day long, wouldn't you? He plays himself. He plays his daughter and his son at that table.
He creepily works as a girl. It is disturbing. I don't even want to get into that.
Well, he's not a big built lad, is he? He's got quite a small frame.
It's that's disturbing. But like the whole VR, they had it. They pretty much had a good idea of what was going to be going on in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that they still missed, and if you look back at that period, it is like the whole mobile smartphone thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think Star Trek's the only one that got that right.
Well, they had like the pad type thing. They didn't have like the small one, but I guess they weren't far off it. The communicator, right?
Yeah.
It's like I said, that this movie almost seems like it's like a three different stories, all like tied to, like 3 short stories tied together. Yeah. Oh, one thing actually, Doc says he's tied all the events where Marty's family all starts falling apart to this one event. As in, right, he goes, this is what we need to sort out. Surely what he needed to stop was Marty having the accident at the end of number 3, because that's when his life, as Biff put it, like he flushed his life down the toilet.
Yeah.
That's the bit that Doc should have been concerned about.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Because then he wouldn't have like broken his arm. He wouldn't have given up on his music. He wouldn't have got sued by the rich guy.
What else?
What did you think of like alternate 1985?
What, the future one?
Alternate 1985.
Oh, yes, that's what I wanted to get into. Loved it. Again, like I said, the true star of this whole trilogy, Biff, the evil Biff, being Donald Trump, basically. that had to have been what they broke it down to. Okay, what's this character to be? Donald Trump. You are Biff / Donald Trump now.
And you own a hotel and a casino, just like the real Donald.
Yep, with his face on the cover. I love it. And then you do the whole scene again with the mum, which again is not as creepy as the first film, but still kind of gross.
But the fact that he's like, accosted by like a expanded chest at that point.
So big. But yeah, Leah Thompson, hey man, give it up. She does a good job of playing all these different varieties of herself as well.
Oh, she absolutely does. And in fact, even in that one, she's done a really good, like, a woman who's been beaten down, who's literally got nowhere left to go. That whole bit where she goes, she's leaving, and then she's blackmailed by Biff, and she literally heads to the bar after she says, I'll stay.
Their kids.
And she's like, pouring herself another whiskey or whatever it is to like drown her sorrows.
They do a good job of always tying in little things with each film. Like when they refer to the uncle when he goes to the 50s.
Joe Joey.
Yeah, and you see him as the toddler, and then talking about him now where the kids can join the uncle. And then even go into the third film, but we'll get to that. Actually, no, let's just introduce the third one as well and then just jump around. Back to the Future 3.
From out of the west, in a cloud of dust, a thunder of hooves, and a mighty...
Great Scott. I know, this is heavy.
This summer, Marty and Doc go back one more time for their greatest adventure of all. Doc's living in the past.
Just try it, Tenant.
But he's about to be history.
What kind of a future do you call that?
I'm going back to 1885, and I'm bringing you home.
It's the last roundup.
Come on, run,
It's the final showdown,
Hey, lighten up, jerk!
where Marty makes a name for himself.
What's your name, dude?
Eastwood. Clint Eastwood.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Doc meets his mate.
You saved my life.
Emmett Brown at your service.
And Tannen meets his match.
I'll hunt you and shoot you down like a duck.
It's Dog Buford. Shoot him down like a dog.
May 25th, 1990. Again, probably part of the whole $40 million budget. This one only brought back 246.1 million. So the lowest out of all of them, but still a hell of a profit.
Still a hell of a lot of money off that budget.
And nowhere near, I'm going to say this now, people keep saying the third one was shit. No, it wasn't. This is still a damn good film. It's just because it's completely different in its setting that makes it a bit odd.
I love this film. The problem I find with this film is it's like almost a rehash of the first one without the soul of the first one.
Ooh, you think?
It's a good film.
It's
a good it has the romance, but it doesn't have the soul of the first one. There's just that magic ingredient missing. It's not a bad movie. If it's on, I will watch it. But to me, the first one is the superior movie.
Yeah, but what do you think would have made this film better?
I actually don't. I don't know what would have made the movie better. I think it's got a strong opening. It's got like a strong. That whole sequence at the end is fantastic. Like when I was watching it now, I was like thinking, there's no CGI in that. That's all practical model work, right? And it looks amazing. If you imagine if that had been early CGI, that would look terrible now.
You gotta explain to people what this sequence is.
Oh, the train where they're basically using the train to push the car up to 88 miles per hour.
Yeah.
It's the middle bit of the film that it's not sags. It's absolutely fine, but there's nothing particular that happens there.
That's the issue, and I reckon they could have fixed that if they had more. What was the old West version? Biff Tannen.
Oh, Mad Dog Tannen.
Yeah, they needed more of him because he wasn't in it much, and he was still awesome like he always was. We should have seen the sequence of something with him and his gang doing something that maybe Marty gets caught up in. Just because it needed. There's no real action or big event thing in the middle of this film. That's where it kind of slumps because there's nothing really happening there.
I guess it's supposed to be Doc in Marty's role from the first movie. It's like, whereas Marty has screwed up the future so many times that he knows, don't fuck with the future.
Yeah.
Like, he turned 1985 into a Trump paradise. He screwed up like the meeting of his parents. Now it's Doc saying, well, hold on a minute. Do I really have to go back? Maybe I want to stay here with this woman I've just met.
Yeah, completely disregards his whole preaching that a woman who should have died now lives. So whatever effect she's going to have on the world, God knows what that's going to change in the future. And also she's going to have kids which weren't supposed to exist. He changes so much. He changes so much from the future. Like, that is something that always, Doc, man. But needed more Tannen, man. Needed that character.
Like Huey Lewis in The New says, the power of love.
And they should have gotten them back again to come up with some sort of western-y version of some song.
No, they had ZZ Top.
Oh, yeah.
So they had ZZ Top.
At the end, though.
No. So they had ZZ Top in the. So that was at the end, but they had like the band. You know, like when they're in the
bell,
the
ceremony thing,
dance at the time or whatever. Yeah. So they have like that. They have a band there playing a western version of the end credit song.
But ZZ Top though, it's Huey. This is their role. This is what they should have been doing.
I guess the idea was maybe ZZ Top would have a bigger hit, as Huey Lewis and the News had.
That's fucking easy. Tom, what happened to them?
Well, they're still like, well, I don't know if they're still rocking it now, but they were huge rock stars like in the 90s.
Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, he needed more Griff, man, or Biff. Tanner.
Biff. Yeah, I think that kind of bit, I think it's just that whole middle bit. I think the whole sequence that they set up in part 2 where Biff is watching, I guess it's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where Clint Eastwood has like the bulletproof vest, and that obviously then plays out in part 3.
Okay, was this a bit weird that when Marty met his ancestors, the Irish version of his family that moved to America, why the fuck is Leah Thompson one of his relatives? Says, exactly, are we to believe that there's inbreeding to a degree, separated by what, 4 generations, that her ancestors are part of his family somehow?
That bit didn't make sense. It'd be one or the other, right? His grandma would either be Leah Thompson or his grandpa would be himself, right? Not both.
Yeah, that was a bit weird. But beyond that, I did like his little Irish ancestors though. They're very different vibe to them.
Did you not find it a little bit hokey? Then I guess it was part of the time where he takes his wife aside and he goes, I have a feeling about this one. He's like, I feel like he's family.
And no one even comments that you look really familiar, even though it's spitting image. Just that.
Oh, he does. He does, because there's the bit where he's standing in the bar and Biff comes in, or Mad Dog, and he goes, "Hey, Seamus, you're not Seamus, but you sure look like him with that stupid hat."
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I missed that one. Why the hell would he think a pink and green shirt with tassels would fit in with the freaking Wild West?
So there's an interesting theory about that. That's because what Doc would have based his research on would have been Westerns of the time. And he's probably watched a Western where he's seen something like that. Because imagine back then, Westerns were like 10 a penny.
Yeah. I don't know. Like a rodeo clown. I think he based it on rodeo clown.
Very much a rodeo clown. Not really geared up for like that environment at all. And then it also shows like the naivety of like this young high school kid where he rips a hole in the fuel line for this thing that's going to get them back to the future. And it doesn't even occur to him that that's actually a really big problem. He's like, don't worry, we can just fill it up.
That's mad. The train. How the hell did Doc make that?
That's something I've often wondered. Not only did he make it, but the parts that he needed to fix the DeLorean wouldn't be invented until 1947. Remember that? He says that.
He says that. But his only explanation when he turns up with the train is that
it runs on steam.
What the fuck? How?
I think it's such a glorious sequence there at the end. You just have to let it go, right? But the really funny thing about that sequence is when he arrives back in 1985 at the end, and the car gets smashed, there's loads of people around watching that happen.
I know.
But when they come back to that site, there's no investigation going on there. There's no one saying, well, there was a car got smashed by a train here. And there's no one on that road when the barriers come down for the train that's not there for Doc to suddenly arrive. That whole bit is just so like weird.
Yeah, I was thinking when I was watching that again, like, why would the
barriers come down?
Yeah, and why would you hear the little bell? Like, how can coming from the future trigger the signals now? That is...
exactly. But it's that end of the trilogy, and you kind of think actually it's quite a memorable end, so you might as well just roll with it.
The reception for 2 and 3 wasn't what I expected. 2 wasn't as loved or beloved as I expected it would be. Looking back,
it is a bit of a confused movie because it doesn't really have like a story that goes from A to B. It kind of like I said, it's like almost 3 short stories.
Yeah.
But I do like the whole, like that last third. I absolutely love the fact that they go back. You see scenes from the original film, like in a different way. And you see the fact that essentially Marty, again, is in the same situation.
So we got to talk about the rumors of a remake.
Possible no remake.
Or continuation.
There's no remake. No.
One thing is that Tom Holland has confirmed that he has had meetings. I forget the studio, whether it is Universal still or someone else, but he has confirmed that there have been meetings talking about a possible... He hasn't said that he's taken it, but he said there was meetings talking about possible reboot or continuation of the story of Back to the Future.
You know how I feel about reboots and remakes. Most of the time, they are unnecessary.
Yes. And, you know, he's going to be a bit too old by the time they get around to filming this, if he did take the role.
It will never happen. Bob Zemeckis has many times says that he basically owns Back to the Future.
If meetings
never allow it. Yeah.
If meetings happen, then how do you know he's not involved? Why would you go as far to have meetings if there isn't the ability to make it?
How do I can't possibly comment on that without knowing it, but like he's been on record so many times saying he's simply not interested. It's like a dumb thing.
Yeah, but those interviews were old, man. Maybe he's come on hard times. He said he had any divorces in those couple of years. His wife might have, cleaned him out.
This if you imagine that guy's done Back to the Future, he done Roger Rabbit, he did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he done Castaway. Quite recently, he did the one in the plane movie with Denzel.
Yeah, Flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, man, divorces, man, they'll clear you out. I don't know if he has had any, but if he did, but maybe when the train crashes through the car, what if those pieces were salvaged by someone?
Well, it's more likely it's going to be like Doc's children, Jules and Vern.
Yeah, but then
the time traveling twins.
But most likely, it's weird. If it did happen, it would probably be contemporary now. That means if the character has to go back, it would go back to the 80s. So you wouldn't get the 50s setting, you'd get an 80s setting instead.
Yes.
An 80s based movie.
Well, which is probably not a bad thing, right? Because you imagine all the people that grew up with that movie are very nostalgic for the 80s. Essentially, if you look at that film, it is a pure representation of the 80s. Even the 50s is seen through an 80s eyes, right? Yeah. Where you've got this kid who goes back and he invents a skateboard and, invents rock and roll.
And they're going to screw it up, man. It'd have the writers of, like, Transformers or something. There'd probably be a sequence where they go into, like, that friggin' Jurassic period and you see dinosaurs. It would be god-awful, man.
This time, instead of inventing rock and roll, Marty invents rap music.
Yeah, it would be.
It'll be like someone on the phone saying, like phoning like his cousin, Snoop, this is the new sound you've been looking for.
Yeah, I see that. I got, yeah, fucking damn. But
right, I'm going to ask you a question now.
Go on.
So this is like the big headfuck question that I thought of the other day.
No, I would not sleep with my mother.
Even if she was as hot as Leah Thompson.
Jesus.
What if you found out that George McFly wasn't actually your father? It was actually you and you had to impregnate your mother. Hey, that's not the question I was going to ask you.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
So at the end of number 2, Marty goes back. You see that scene. You see him go back to the future. You see Marty arrive. Does that mean that Doc from 1985 knew Marty was going to come back again and that he was going to end up in the old Wild West?
Oh, no. You got say again.
Right. So at the end of the second movie, you've got scenes from the first film. So you see Marty going back to the future. Yeah. And
when he comes back to the Libyan, sees the Libyan thing.
No. So at the end of number 2, you just see.
Two.
So you see Marty go back to the future, and then Marty come running around the corner, and basically Doc has to help him again for the next adventure, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
in the 50s. You got to give me the time period. In the 50s.
Yeah. So that means if Doc Brown in the 50s knows that Marty comes back again, and that fact that he ends up in 1885, does that mean Doc in 1985 knows all of that as well?
Oh, fuck.
He must do, right?
He must.
He must have known that Marty was going to buy that book in 2015 and cause all of these events. Yet he still takes him there.
I guess it depends on which version of, because time travel you can go different versions of, because we don't know everything's relevant because we don't really know what would happen. So you could either think it that the Doc we first meet is had his own timeline and he never had any of these other experiences. And then what we're seeing is different alternative. Every time he jumps, you're creating a new future, new path, a new lane of
But isn't it like whatever has happened will already happen type thing?
Not if you're changing things, then you're creating a diversion.
But okay,
innit? A
so
split.
but if you're then changing it, right? That means the next time that happens, you already know about it, right? Because hence Marty will go back to the future and he will always come back again.
It's a head fuck the way you look at it.
It is a head fuck. But even more disturbing than that, did you notice that Marty ran from at the end of the second film? He runs from the Lions estate to the town square, but leaves the hoverboard. Doesn't take the hoverboard with him. Did you notice that? I noticed it, and I thought, right, this guy has just fucked to the future by letting this sports almanac fall into the wrong hands. Can you imagine if somebody picked up that hoverboard, the technology they would have in their hands?
Dude, we've seen the consequences of this sort of thing in Future Man.
Exactly.
The true successor to Back to the Future, the Hulu show Future Man, where he leaves an iPhone in the 60s, was it?
Something like that.
And the black guy finds it, and then it becomes I forgot what he calls it, Tyrone or some shit. But yeah, the Black Apple.
Yeah. That's the end of that film. That's all I could think about. I go like, he's come running around the corner. He does not have the hoverboard in his hands. He's not used it to get to dock.
That's mad. So many holes.
Yeah. So many holes. But does not stop those three from being absolutely fantastic, great films.
Yeah. So, am I led to believe, after what you said about number 2, that you'd rate this 1, 3, 2?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
In the quality stakes.
I'd still go for, in order, 1, 2, and 3. Not that I don't like 3, I still love it, but yeah. 2 still has that fun factor that I love about it.
It's a fun movie, but like I said, it is a bit of a confused film.
And you don't want no sequels, no matter how enticing.
Nope, not interested. No sequels, no reboots, no remakes.
Reboot has to happen, Mo. Reboot, sequel. To make a choice. Come on, it has to happen.
I tell you what.
Reboot or sequel?
If reboot or sequel was my choice, I would choose this.
Son of a bitch, you can't answer that question. Did you ever watch the cartoon?
I do remember watching the cartoon, yes, as a child.
Vaguely.
Yes, vaguely. But it was more like it had like Doc and his children. Marty would like come and visit them, and they would go in for adventures like in the train.
Oh, I don't remember that. I completely forgot there were kids in there. I remember.
Oh, do you remember the cartoon actually had live action bits in it as well, like in Doc's garage or whatever?
In the beginning.
So, either in the beginning, the end, or the middle, or whatever. He would basically be telling a story, and then you would see the animated thing.
Oh shit! It's all coming back. Oh, that's crazy. Back to the Future trilogy. Maybe one of can it be the best? I don't know, man, because Planet of the Apes is such a perfect trilogy in its own.
It's certainly my favorite. It's like when you said watch Back to the Future, I had no qualms about like watching those 3 films. I mean, you watched them all in one day.
Yeah.
They're such easy, digestible movies. Number 1 is, in my opinion, like a perfect film. And again, I was just watching something prior to this where they use the card system, right? They basically, in a room, they have a load of cards and they go, Marty travels through time. They put that card up. Marty, that means that there has to be a card that says Marty goes back to the future. Marty invents rock and roll. That means there must be a card that says this is how Marty can play the guitar. And they literally sat there and kind of made like this film with like this like card system.
That's how all films should be. You should have a board and everything on it. You can see what goes. So you don't have all these loose, forgotten things that so many movies have.
Yeah. There was some controversy that popped up just this weekend about a loophole in Back to the Future, and apparently they've been discussing this for ages. And Robert Zemeckis has finally weighed in, and I can't believe people are actually arguing about this because to me it makes perfect sense. So they said, "Do you not think that it's weird that George and Lorraine don't realize that their teenage son looks a lot like this guy that they knew in 1955. And I'm like, they knew him for like 5 days and they didn't really spend much time with him. You're never going to remember that guy. Think about all the people you went to school with.
That is true. If I actually think back to how old, they're 17 basically.
They're 17 and they only saw this guy for 5 days 30 years ago.
trying to think someone who I knew for 5 days.
And in that 5 days, it wasn't like they were hanging out all the time.
Nah, you wouldn't remember.
Yeah, you would not remember.
And with their child, they've watched their child grow. So even then, it wouldn't link. Yeah, you wouldn't remember that.
Yeah.
But they didn't take no pictures, did they? No.
If George was a jealous type, he might think his wife's had an affair like in the sort of mid-70s or early 70s. So like this kid, he looks an awful lot like a guy we used to know at school.
That's true. Yeah. Shit. Yeah. So Back to the Future trilogy, great trilogy. Is it one of the best or the best? I don't know, man. A lot of people argue about the third one, but I still think it's great. Oh,
fantastic movie.
What movie should we do next? We'll talk about it afterwards. But guys, let us know what you think. Check out the podcast, Talking at the Movies podcast, also on this feed, on this YouTube channel, as well as the audio on all podcast platforms. Go check it out. Anything else you want to say, Mo?
No, I just really enjoyed watching these 3 films.
Classics. Right for a remake. I'm saying it. In the remake, reboot argument, or sequel, reboot. See, I'm going sequel. Continuing on. Someone discovers the technology, the plans, something. Give me that. So from me to Reese. Oh, and Mo's frozen. Perfect timing anyway. So guys, that was Mo. I'm Eddie. And this has been Talking Back to the Future. See you later.